surround yourself with people that are going to be a good influence. Yeah. Fine. Okay. Okay, so we got up to the two dots, Samachay and Aleph. Yeah, Matzah Shnayim Roisha, yeah. So again, we're talking about the sugi that we're talking about here is if you find a dead body, if you find a dead body somewhere, so then you have to then you don't have to, you can rebury it because you're assuming that it was only there temporarily. But if you find three bodies, then that's considered a cemetery and you're not allowed to move them because they were probably there permanently. And if not, then and then besides that, you have to go check up to 20 amas away to see. Right? Fine. So okay, so then we continue with other cases of where we don't have to be choshev. Yesterday we ended off with saying that if the person is buried sitting up or buried in a like crunched up, so we said that's the assumption that that person is a guy. So Mamela, you're allowed to do whatever you want. So now the Gemara continues with that. Yeah, two dots, about 10 lines down. So Matzah Shnayim Rosh Shalzeh B'tzad Margalosav Shalzeh. If you find two bodies, or two kvarim, one is meaning they're buried opposite each other. Rosh Shalzeh B'tzad Margalosav Shalzeh, Rosh Shalzeh B'tzad Margalosav Shalzeh. So they're both buried in different directions. So that is not a Yiddish thing. So ein lehen tfusa, it does not have tfusa, meaning since it's not a Yiddish way to be buried. So tfusa again, we're going to say on the bottom of what tfusa is, but tfusa means you don't have to take when you dig up the body, you don't have to take some dirt with it. And it's not considered a cemetery. Matzah shloisha, if you found, so that's one case. That's interesting because we're basing it on the way Yidden bury. Right? I mean, they all bury everybody in the same direction. The minig is you bury with your feet, with the feet towards the entrance of the grave, because that's how you get out when Mashiach comes. When not Mashiach, when the Tchias HaMesim. So that's the way you're going to get out to Yerushalayim. Right, which is an interesting thing because they're going to roll, et cetera, et cetera. So then the big shiloh that I get this shot at least once a week. What's with sleeping with your head towards the door? Right? People, it's a big thing out there, and it happens to be that I discussed it with some place. Discussed it with Rafafinis. He says, "Faker, if you're saying that it's like a mace, then a mace goes out with the feet towards the door. So if anything, you shouldn't sleep with your feet towards the door, which I think the majority of people sleep with their feet towards the door. So these people are asking about not their head shouldn't be towards the door. If anything, if you're worried about like a mace, then it should be the opposite. So I don't know exactly where that whole thing comes from. And then one of my brothers-in-law told me that my shver, who was a shtickle into Kabbalah and these type of zachen, was makpid to not sleep with the head towards the door. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. If anybody knows of a source for this, they're welcome to let the olim know. But anyway, but you see that there is specific ways that we bury. Fine. Matzah shloisha. Let's say he finds three kvarim. Ha'echad yedua b'shnayim tchila.
It took me a few seconds to read. I looked into that a few years ago. It was something because someone to come and kill you, Chas v'shalom. So you don't want your head there. I think we found it together someplace.
Yes, but that's not. I'm saying the Velt doesn't say that. The Velt says because it's a mace.
Right. I'm just saying. I just asked whatever. I remember I think it was us that looked into it years ago.
Yeah, you can't defend yourself. You can't defend yourself if your head is towards the door. Yeah. Anyways, that's good memory, Naftali. But that's I guess. Yeah.
You tell me something, I remember it.
There you go.
At least. Okay.
There you go. No, you don't. Were you kidding?
Okay. You got me on that. That's anyways, my nerves. So, if I got it right.
There you go. Okay, so matzah shleish. If you find three kvarim, ha'echad yedua, one was known before, v'shnayim tchila, and two that were there from the beginning. Shnayim tchila, v'shnayim yeduim, or it really should be echad yedua, but that's the base. One was known before, and then two you found out right about now. Meaning, you knew about one grave, and then for some reason you didn't find two other graves, and then they appeared somehow next to it. So the question is it a cemetery or not? So it's in either scenario. Either two were known and one became known right now, or one was known before and then two became. So Ein Lem Tfusa, they don't have Tfusa, meaning you don't have to dig the dirt, and Ein Lem Shchunas Kvaros, and there's no Shchunas Kvaros, because that's not considered three, because three has to be done at the same time. Ma'aseh Rabbi Yesheva, there was a story, Rabbi Yesheva shebadak u'matza shnayim yiduin ve'echad tchila. He was badak, and he found two that were known, and one was tchilav, that they just saw it now, ubikish lasos and shchunas kvaros, and he wanted to make it into a cemetery. All the work that you're doing is for emptiness, for rik, for nothing. They only, the Chachamim only said that it's considered a cemetery for Gimel Yeduin and Shloisha Tchila, meaning, or either you found out all three about it now, or they're all, they were all known before. Right? That's that. So that's what he's saying. Rabbi Sheva wanted to make it into a cemetery, but we said, Rabbi Kiva said not. Yeah, fine. So then, what is this tfusa? What's this tfusa? It's a nightliness as tfusas, and you have to take the dirt. So what is that? So heichidami tfusa. What does it mean that you have to dig up some of the dirt? Some Rabbi Yehuda Amar Kra when it's asani mitzrayim, when it said that when Yaakov said to Yosef to make sure to take me out of Mitzrayim, meaning take the body out of Mitzrayim, tol imi. What he meant by saying, what do you mean, the Sasani mi Mitzrayim? Where else is he taking it out from? Right? Meaning, it's what the Sasani, take my body and bury it in Eretz Yisrael. So why does it say mi Mitzrayim? So what it means is tol imi, take some of Mitzrayim with me. Very interesting makar for digging up some of the dirt. Meaning, Yaakov was saying, since I'm buried in Mitzrayim, and there's going to be some decay of the body, so therefore you got to take some of the dirt of Mitzrayim and bury me with that dirt in Eretz Yisrael. Right? Which then shows you, Reb Doiv is on. Was from here it's Masher, Yaakov was buried in Mitzrayim.
Yeah, I'm here.
Right? Was Yaakov buried in Mitzrayim? The Mefarshim say?
They say, but they took him out. They embalmed him, and then they took him out.
Right. So, but I thought that the pashtus was that the art scroll. I think the art scroll has a footnote about it. That the pashtus was that they didn't bury him in Mitzrayim. They embalmed him, and he just stayed.
They embalmed him and took him out. Yeah.
Right. So in this Gemara is clear that they buried him.
That there's some pieces of Why should they take out
put
the
him in
dirt?
the ocean? No, didn't they bury him in the ocean?
They put him in the ocean. Yeah, that's Yosef's bones.
Oh.
Close.
Yeah. So I don't know. From here it's mashma. It's mamish mashma that they buried him, and he wanted. That's the makar for when you're digging up a grave to take some of the dirt with it. It's an interesting zach.
Because parts decay, and they have that rick. What was that thing we learned about the rake?
Yeah, the reka. We're gonna say in a second. The reka, and all those things.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, anyways, it's interesting.
Yeah.
The kind of Matan Torah, you keep minhagim. If there's no dinam, kind of Matan Torah, how does it minhagim?
This week in the Rashi it says a muchtam look the Torah. You'll get it. We're getting there tomorrow probably. Okay.
Interesting. It's an interesting zach. That is taka before Matan Torah, but that's where we're learning it from. So clear that Yaakov Avinu was buried in Mitzrayim. That's the idea.
Unless, could you learn that? I mean, from the same way that we're learning this drasha, the words of Yaakov were to teach that in a case where someone would be buried there.
Could be. That's a good aura.
The two words are extra. He doesn't need to say Satanim and Mitzrayim. The whole words are extra.
Could be.
I hear. So you want to say, all right.
He was teaching them this halach. This is the halach he was teaching.
I hear. Interesting. Maybe. Okay. The kama shir tfusa. So what is the shir of tfusa? What I mean, how much dirt has to be dug up? So Pirush Rebbe Elazar Rebbe Tzadok, or you're not good regarded as Rebbe Tzadok. Noitel offer tichuach. You have to take the dirt that's soft, the chayfer b'besula gimel tzvayis, and then after that, dig the dirt that was never dug before, 3 fingers deep, right? Right. So 3 fingers deep, basically, the loose dirt. And after the loose dirt, then 3 fingers deep has to be dug up with the mace, because that's l'chara how deep the decay happened. So meisvei says the kasha, maybe that's not what tfusa is. V'kama shir tfusa. We have a brisa that says, what's the shir of tfusa? Pirush Rebbe Elazar Rebbe Tzadok. Noitel a kismin. You have to take the wood, the little pieces of wood, like the shards of wood that fall off the aron. Vesak sosais. Sosais is the chunks of dirt. Zarikis of adayin, and you throw away what's for sure vadai, from the word vadai, what's for sure not from the guf. And anything that's mesupik, that you have to you leave, meaning you take the sveikas and put it together with the body. Bashar mitzdarif. And the rest of whatever's there is mitzdarif l'roi binyanei shomesis. We had 2 weeks ago, when you're trying to figure out how much of the mace is tameh. So we said if it's roi binyan, then that counts to be metama. So whatever junk is left in the grave there, that counts l'roi binyanei u'l'roi v'atzamas. And for if you have a quarter of a kav of bones, l'mlei tavard rekev, right? And the spoonful of rekev, that also counts towards tumah. So everything there counts towards that. Whatever it is, it doesn't say anything here in this brisa about digging out the dirt, right? It doesn't say anything about digging out the dirt. So before we said it's 3 fingers full, and here this Gemara says it's not like that. So the Gemara answers, he said he goes with the other shita that says how much is the shir tfusa. You take the loose dirt, the chayfer, besula, shalish etzpais, and you dig with the fresh dirt 3 etzpais. So basically, we have a machlokes tanoim what tfusa is. Either it's three fingers width, 3 fingers thick down, or it's you got to take the wood chips and the clumps of dirt, etc., etc. Fine. Baidik himenu. So what do we say? You have to be baidik for 20 amas. If you have 3 graves together, then you have to be baidik 20 amas on Talmud base. So Amarava, badak upana. If he was baidik, right, and upana, and then he took away the body, meaning you found one grave. And you removed it, badak upan, and then you found another grave, and then you removed it, right? And that's what you're allowed to do because there's only 2 graves. Then badak va'ashkach, and then you badak again, and then you found a third. Yeah, so now what? Meaning you found one grave, and you said, "Oh, it's one grave. It's a random grave. I could move it." So he moved it. Then he found another grave, and he moved it. Then he finds a third grave. So now what? Now it's a cemetery, so it comes out that he shouldn't have removed the first 2. Right? So now what does he do? Should he move the first 2 back? Should he not? So loy hai mifni le mifani le gabihani tre. You don't take the third body and move it to the other 2. But loy hani tre le gabi hai chad, and you don't move the other 2 back. Meaning, really, it shouldn't have been moved. But once they were moved, then you don't move them anymore. Right? So basically, the first 2 you can't move back because they were already moved, and the one that you found you shouldn't move either, right? Fine. So that's one pshat. Since you had rishus to move them, the first 2, because the first 2 bodies you didn't find the third body. So since you had rishus to do that, so you could remove them. So Gemara asks, why are you allowed to move them? It was a shchunas kvaras. It was 3 bodies. So Amar Reish Lakish, Ila matzu v'tiro Eretz Yisrael. A very interesting thing. They found an excuse, and Ila is an excuse. They found an excuse, and they want to be matar Eretz Yisrael. So since it's talking about Eretz Yisrael, And this whole din of cemeteries of 3 bodies making a cemetery is only a derabanan din. So therefore, if we have any opportunity to avoid the rabbanon in order to make less tumah in Eretz Yisrael, we're going to do that. So therefore, since 2 were already moved, and now there's only 1 that was found, so it doesn't fit into the parameters that the Chachamim said, and then Memela, we're lessening the tumah in Eretz Yisrael, right? So basically,
That's
we
mamish
don't
what they're
want more
fighting
tumah in Eretz
about.
Yisrael. Is that what they're fighting about?
It's one of the things they're fighting about. Who's deciding which makes less tumah in Eretz Yisrael? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
so we're looking for every excuse. We're looking for every excuse to make less tumah, in Eretz Yisrael. So that's why, even though theoretically there was a cemetery here, but since we have excuses, so we have excuses. Fine. Bodak me esrim ama v'loy matzah. What's the din? So they have 3 graves together. So he said you're not allowed to move the graves, and then you have to be baidik 20 amas to see if there's any more graves. Some Rav Menashe. So let's say you don't find any. So now what? Some Rav Menashe Rav Yirmiyah Amar Rav shchunas kvaros. It's still a shchunas kvaros, even though you didn't find anything else. 3 graves is a cemetery. My timer. Now this is very shver. This line. My timer. Amar Reish Lakish ila matzah v'tiyoros Eretz Yisrael. They found an excuse in their matar Eretz Yisrael. That's a reason to say it's not a cemetery, right? We just got finished saying that's a reason not to say it's a cemetery, right? Rav Menashe Rav Yirmiyah says it is a cemetery, right? And B'Shem Rav that it is a cemetery, and then Reish Lakish is coming to say the reason because they wanted to make less tumah in Eretz Yisrael, but you just said that it's a cemetery, right? So that can't be. So the Rosh is not Gairos, this line in the Gemara. There are ways. Taisus has a way. It's complicated. Can't say I understand it myself, but exactly how to fit this in, that it fits into the Gemara. Fine. Okay. Fine. Then weiter we continue. Now the reason why the Gemara is discussing all this is because it's all talking about Sveikas, and we're trying to figure out what the din is by Sveikas. So then the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Kol Safek Negoim, whenever you have a suffix of tzaras, so then betchila tahar, ad shalei niskak l'tuma. In the beginning, it's tahar until it becomes tuma. One second, this guy wants to get in. I'm blocking the driveway. All right, he got in. All right. Williamsburg, they figure a way to get in even when you're blocking their driveway. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So call again. So call Savin and Goyim. Betchila tar. It's going to be tar actually niskak the tuma until he becomes tame. Once he becomes tame, mishniskak l'tuma. Once he becomes tame, sveikai tame. Then the suffix is tame. So this needs a little bit of explanation. So what does it mean a suffix negoyim? Yeah. So basically, you have 2 guys that come to the kohen to show him a tzaras. Right, one had like a grist size, which would be the proper size, and the other one had what's not the proper size. Then the other one had a sela size, and then they what they do is like we learned last week. You put them into shmira for a week. So they put them into shmira, and then they both have the size of a sela, which means one's tzaras grew and one's didn't grow. So one should really become a mitzayir, one shouldn't. Again, 2 guys come to the kohen. He's busy, so he doesn't remember who was what. And one guy had a gris, which is the size of a bean, and one had a sela, which is the size of a coin. So he puts them into confinement for a week, and then he checks them, and they both have a sela. He has no recollection who was who. So we're going to say that since they both have a chazaka, that they're tar, so they're tar. But once they become
Get
tameh,
down here.
then the suffix is mute, please. Right? Yeah. So once there's a suffix of tuma, so then that's it. So what's the case of suffix tuma? Two guys came to the kohen. One had a gris, and one had a sela. Right, and then they're both bigger than a sela. Then one of them, I would say, I'm saying, sorry, how does it go again? One had a sela for sure, and one had a gris. So one is for sure tummy, right? Then they both were. Then they both came down when they checked them a week later. They both were down to a sela, right? So the one that had a sela, right? That's how it goes. The one that had a sela should be tar, because his either shrank or is the same size. The other guys grew. So since this is coming from where one of them was tummy, so memela we have to be machmer. We got to be machmer on them that they're tummy. So basically, it's all totally in the chazakah. If they're both tahar and there comes feikus in front of the kohen, then we're makel. If they're tummy, they're not. Then we have to be machmer. Okay, so we know immediately. How do you know this? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, Amar Kra, L'taroy or L'tamay. The pasuk says, and they come in front of the kohen, right? Then it's going to become, it's L'taroy or L'tamay. Either to be metared, so to be metared, to be metared. So which one comes first? Since the pasuk wrote the word tahara first, so therefore we give priority. We give priority to the tahara. So when I asked the pasuk the kasha, so in the same thing, even if they're both tame, nami sveika tar, the suffix should be tar, right? So the suffix should be tar. Hello, ki itmar the Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav itmar. So it can't be that that's pshat. So where is it going? What is it going on? It says in Beheres Kadma L'Seir Lavan. If the Beheres comes before Seir Lavan. Hold on a second. Now another car's coming out. Let me. I'm sorry. I gotta move the car. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, I apologize. So again, so he wanted to say that the reason why you could be matar is because the pasuk comes many times a suffix of tahara, so the pasuk says tahara first, so you be matar. So the kash is okay. So where does it say that you only do that when the person has a cheskas tara? It should be even if the guy has a cheskas tuma. We should always lean towards the tar first when you have a suffix. So what's going on this? It says in Beheres Kadma L'Seir Lavan, if you have the Beheres, so Beheres is like the white spot. And then the white spot grows white hair. If the white spot grows white hair, that's tsaras, right? I'm sorry, it's got to be two white hairs, right? Okay, whatever it is. If the Beheres Kadma L'Seir Lavan, if the Beheres comes before the white hair, it's tummy. If Seir Lavan Kadma Beheres, but if the white hair comes before the Beheres, then it's tahar. Suffix tame. So what about a suffix? Meaning you don't know which came first. Did the white spot come first, or did the white hairs come first? But Yeshua says no, that's not what it is. Kia. If it's kia means if it's light. If the white spot is light, my kia, what does it mean? Amar Rabbi Yehuda kia the tar. It means it's light and it's tar. The dilma kia v'tamei, but maybe it's kia and it's tame. Maybe who says that kia? Who says a light spot is tar? Maybe a light spot is tame. So Amar Kra l'taroi or l'tamoi. The pasuk says to be metar or to be metama. Hoyel pasuk by a kasa betara tchila. Since the pasuk starts with the hara first, so memela. And then when you have a shaila of which came first, the spot or the hair, we're always going to go with the tahar one, and therefore we're going to be meko. So basically, we have two pshatim in the pasuk of the tahar or the tameh. The first pshat is that whenever you have a suffix and the person is becheskas tahara, then we go with tahara. But when there's a cheskas tuma, then we go with Tuma. And the second shot is no, that can't be, because it has to be, we always, if you're going to say that, then you're always going to go with Tahara. What's the difference what the Chazak is? So second shot is that if you have a suffix, whether the white spot or the white hair came first, you're always going to go with whichever one is the more Mako. Fine. Okay. On to the next Tuma. The Shiva, what is the second last Mishnah, right? The Shiva, Derachim, Baitkenes Azav. So before that, there's just a Hakdama, what a Zav is. A Zav, I don't know what they call it, gonorrhea, not Ichveisnish. It's some sort of disease that's similar to Shichva Zera that comes out of the man. Now, back then, they were able to tell what the difference is between Shichva Zera and Zav. Nowadays, obviously, we have no idea. But the din of a Zav, and we had this a bunch of times, is a Zav, if he sees once, then it's just Tumah for the day. If within 24 hours he sees again, then he becomes a Zav, and he needs to wait Shiva Nikiyim of not seeing any excretions. And that's it, then he's good. Then he goes to mikvah, then he's good. If he sees a third one, then he becomes a Zav Gedolah, and he needs 7 clean days, and he needs to bring karbanos. So the din is that if he sees once this Zav stuff, so then he's Tameh as a Zav. If he sees the second time, so then the second time, this Mishnah is going to say, we try and look for an excuse why he would have become a Zav. And if there was something going on in his body that maybe caused it, then we're not going to be Matameh him as a Zav that needs 7 clean days. And then we're going to see Vaita, is whether the third one we examine him or not. Right? But if we can come up with a viable reason why he may have seen this strange stuff coming out of him, then we're not going to call him a Zav. Right? So there's 7 ways to test him. So b'shiva drachim baitkenes azav, there's 7 ways to check a Zav. Actually, niskak leziva, but we only check him until before he becomes a Zav, meaning once he saw twice, then there's no reason to check him a third time, because that third time we're going to assume, since he already saw twice, we're going to assume automatically that third time is also Zav, even though that third time might be because of an Einus. Well, let's see, and then we'll explain it again. So what are the 7 ways? But Michael, uve mishta, sometimes he could drink drinks that can, like alcohol, obviously. I don't know if it's obvious, but it's alcohol that could cause him to see a strange emission. And overeating, like fatty foods, egg, wine, all that type of things. B'masa, if he carried a big load, then maybe that's what caused him to have an excretion. Uve kvitza, or if he jumped a lot. Uve chayli, or he was sick. Uve mara. Mara is a very interesting one. He saw something that caused him to become a zav. So Tosfos says, Mara means he saw a man and a woman being together. So Memela, that's what caused him to see the zav, not it wasn't real Tuma zav. And the Mephirish says he saw a shade, and he got scared. It's sort of like wetting his pants. That's the way the Mephirish says it. So Memela, those things are considered Einus. It's not considered zav. So that again, before he's a zav, meaning if he only sees one time, so we're going to test him and ask him, like if he sees this excretion, and we're going to ask him and say, okay, did you eat a lot? Did you drink a lot? Did you carry a large, whatever, did you, any of these things? And if he says yes, then he's not going to be a zav. But Mishan Niskak Laziva, once he's already a zav, which means he saw twice, ain't bite gonna say we don't check into him, right? And then Ein Sayus Feko Shitmazare to him, and then even if he was an Einus, and even if it's a suffix whether he saw zav, and even if it's just Shikva Zera, meaning he stam had relations, we're still going to be Metamet. Why? Shiraglayim Ladavar, which is the reason why the Mishnah is getting into this, because the last couple of Mishnah said this thing. It's a Raglayim Ladavar, meaning it seems like where there's smoke, there's fire. So since this guy already saw zav twice, we're not going to go test the third time he sees to see maybe as an excuse, because where there's smoke, there's fire. And since he saw twice, so then this is going to be the third. Right? But if he only saw once, so if that's not enough smoke, So therefore, we're going to look in to see if he's okay, right? Meaning if he only saw because of an einus. That's one case. Next case is no shaykhs. What?
The Zav Katan is allowed to have Tashmish?
I don't know. It could be he saw it even without tashmish.
Oh, Kerry, okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, could be he saw carry. I don't know. Anyways, that's one case. The second case is hamakes chaveroi. Somebody hit his friend, right? Parrots. This is mamash and yonat the yom. Hamakes chaveroi. The guy hits his friend. Vamdu lemisa, and the doctor said this guy's gonna die. And then he improved. Baruch Hashem, he improved. Then la'achar mikan. I hope this part hopefully should not be in the other diamond. La'achar mikan hichbid umeis. After that, he took a turn for the worse. So is the guy chayav or not? Meaning, normally, if a guy hits somebody else and he's gonna die, so the guy's gonna be chayav misa, right? If the doctor says he's gonna die, but then he gets a little better, but then he takes a turn for the worse. So maybe the turn for the worse had nothing to do with the guy that hit him. So that's a machlokes from Nechemia Aimer Potter, and Nechemia says it's Potter. Sheraglayim. So the first sheet that says it's chayiv because l'chayr it happened from the first guy. Nechemia Aimer Potter Sheraglayim l'davar. Nechemia says it's Potter because it's raglayim l'davar. That l'chayr, the reason why the guy, it's a raglayim l'davar that he got better. So Mela, since he got better, who's to say that it's the first guy's problem?
Yeah, it's
right?
the doctor gave him too much medicine and he OD'd him.
Right, that could be. I'm saying you don't know. Right, you don't know. Yeah. So fine. Zog the Gemara. So the Gemara doesn't discuss this case at all. The Gemara just goes with Zav. So Minani Mili, how do we know that we only check into the Zav second emission? We don't look into the third. It says a Zav who has Zav, right? The Riyah Shlishis Ishkas Nekeva. On the third Riyah, it becomes like we compare it to a Nekeva. Meaning by a Nekeva, we don't look into whether a woman can be a Zav also. She sees a different type of blood. So by her, we don't look into the third time. We don't look to see maybe it's an Einus, maybe not. We're just Matama. So we're saying that Hazav es Zaivai. So that tells you that the third time is like similar to a Nekeva, and we don't check into it. The Gemara says, "Vatani Rebbe Lazar Aimer b'shlishis bait say." The third time he sees Zav, we check into it, but Revius ain't bait say. The fourth time we don't. Right? So Rebbe Lazar seems to disagree with our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is saying that the first time, Taisa says actually do the first time also, but really the main thing is the second time. First and second time you check in. Third time it's already too late. And Rebbe Lazar holds no, it's the fourth time. So what pasuk does he do? Ella be'esim kamivli. They're having a machlokes how to darshan the word es. Rebbe Lazar darish esim. He darshans esim. So Mamela says v'hazav es zoivoi. So that's 3. And then the fourth one, it's compared to a lady. Rabbanon loy darshi esim. The Rabbanon don't darshan es. So all they have is 2 words. V'hazav es zoivoi. That's 2. So then the third one is Matama. Is Matama regardless. Okay, so that's interesting. Machlokes, you have that whole Gemara with Rabbi Akiva didn't darshan the esim, etc., right? And then Rabbi Akiva wanted to darshan es, and he missed one. So he gave up on all. Was it Rabbi Akiva? Reb Shimon.
That's Hashem.
Who was the one that? Right, it was Reb Shimon. It wasn't Rabbi Akiva.
Rabbi Akiva was Vavin.
Oh, Vavin. Okay, I'm missing it out. So Reb Shimon couldn't darshan one es, and then came along Reb Shimon ben Manasseh.
Reb Shimon darshaned all the esim, and then as Hashem lekechatira, he had a problem with what could be possibly like the Eibishter.
Right.
And the Talmidim came and said, Talmidim Chachamim. No, sorry,
right.
no.
So that's what it was.
Talmidim said, how can you throw everything out because of one S?
He says the same way Makabel.
Yeah, and then
right.
Other Shimon came and said, Talmidim Chachamim.
So I guess that's part of this machlokes, whether you should even darshan the S in the first place. Right? Yeah, okay. Einzayus fake. Should we do a little more time? Is it 9:15? Yeah, we might as well do a little more so we could start. So for those that plan on starting Saita, Aaron Kaplan, let them know we're going to start. Beis Amud Aleph is a major daf in Saita anyway, so it's kedai to do it tomorrow night because on Friday it's not going to go. Amud Beis in Saita is already drushes of psukim. It's perfect for Friday.
Okay, I'll post it that we're starting Saita tomorrow.
But Saita tomorrow's Beis Amud Aleph is a good Thursday night sugya. About Breira, meaning is that you have Bechira, do you not have Bechira, Kashas Yivug and Kriyas Yamsov, yeah, whatever. Okay,
Conditions of the Cheney. Big ones.
Okay, so let's see a little bit here. So Amar Rava, we're on the Amar Aleph now. Amar Rava, light tema.
Listen, we didn't even start yet and you're already disturbing.
He's getting warmed up, Eretz. He's getting warmed up. Yeah, so Amar Rava.
At least he's equal opportunity.
Yeah, so and again, when the Mishnah we're talking about, we're misupik, what type of zav he saw. So Amar Rava, light tema, safik chaza, safik loy chaza. Don't say that what's the shaila here, whether he saw zav or whether he didn't see. That's not the safik. Elavadai chaza. He definitely saw tuma zav. Safik machmas shikva zera, safik machmas ria. It's a safik whether it was shikva zera, right, with semen mixed in with it, safik machmas ria, or maybe it was because of a ria, meaning a ria means a regular zav. So we're not sure. So kivan sheniskak l'tuma. Once the guy already saw twice, so then sveika tame. His suffix is going to be tame, right? So yeah, I'm sort of a little happy that we lost the Messiah for we lost the Messiah for this, because I would be busy with trying to figure out the difference between Shikva Zera and Zav. Like today when I was by the eye doctor, I said, listen, I got the bifocals or whatever. I need an easy way to look at Maris. That's all. I don't know how. That's all. Without taking off the glasses, with taking off the glasses. You know what I mean? Whatever. Anyways, fine. So that's meaning. Don't think the Gemara's point is don't think that the suffix is whether he saw, whether he didn't see. No, the suffix is what he saw. Right, and we're going to go l'chumra because he already has a chazaka. This does come up a lot, right? In Taras Mishpacha, because it sometimes when somebody sees, I'm doing lashon naki because I'm in the car with kids. So, but when somebody sees, it depends where they're coming from. Do they have a cheskas tara or cheskas tuma? Right? If the woman is tahira, especially if she's pregnant or something like that, she's misalekes damim or post menopause. She's considered misalekes damim. So the burden of proof is on you to be meaning the burden of proof is to say, oh, this is too much. We got to be machra. Meaning the default is she has a cheskas tahara. So memela, that's where we go with, unless it's mamish a slam dunk that it's a problem, right? So that part does come up. Okay, shikva zaroi tmeya. So if it's shikva zaroi, then it's going to be tame. So what does this mean? Lamai. What does it mean it's tame? Ilema lamaga. If it means to touch it, right? Meaning it becomes tame if you touch this emission. Migara b'shikva zera detar. It's no worse than a shikva zera detar. And any shikva zera is betama. If you touch, you have to touch it directly. If you touch it directly, you tame that day. So of course, this shikva zera is tame. Meaning we're saying that the zav sees shikva zera, so then he's tame. Well, of course, everybody's tame, right? What's the chiddush with that? What it's saying is that normally zav, the emissions from a zav are tame if you carry it. Even if you carry it, let's say you're 10 boxes, and on the top box, the zera, even though it's not touching, you become tame. So we're going to say that the shichva zera of this fellow is also going to be matama that way. So the Gemara asks, how could that be? Man shamas la'adam shichva zera shazav matama masa. Who's the opinion that says that the shichva zera of a zav is tame even if you carry it? Again, stam shichva zera only becomes that stam semen, that only becomes tame if you actually touch it. But we're saying, and the tuma of zav is tame even if you don't touch it, even if you just carry it. Right? So, but here we're saying that the shichva zera becomes tame of a zav, becomes tame even if you carry it. So who is that shita? If you say it's the Tanya Rebbe Eliezer Oimer, Shichva Zara Shel Zav Eina Matama B'Masa, that the Shichva Zara of a Zav is not Matama B'Masa. So obviously the Mission is not that opinion, because he's saying you're not. It doesn't become tummy by carrying it. Rabbi Yeshua Oimer Matama B'Masa. Rabbi Yeshua says it does become tummy B'Masa. Why? Because it's impossible if a person, man, sees Shichva Zara when he's a Zav, it's impossible that there's no Zav mixed in with it, because it's all coming from the same place. So it has to be that there's some Zav in it, so it should be Tameh when you carry it. But the Gemara says, the only reason why he's being machmer on the Shichva Zara is because he's afraid that there's going to be some remnants of Ziva in it. But if it was straight up, let's say you knew 100% it was pure Shichva Zera and it was no Zav mixed into it, then he would be minded that you're not Tameh. So, I mean, his only reason why he's saying that Shichva Zera is Tameh by carrying it is because he's assuming that there's some stuff mixed into it. But if it's not mixed in, so then what's the problem? Right? So it can't be that Shita, which, by the way, we had this in Megillah last week or 2 weeks ago. This does come up for those that are makbid on Tfilas Ezra, which is after they have any Shichva Zera, they go to the mikveh. So the Mefarshim say that before you go to the mikveh, you should go to the bathroom, urinate, because there's always going to be a little leftover of Zera there. And if you first go to the mikveh and then you go to the bathroom, then more Zera came out. You got to go back to the mikveh. Right? So they say, go to the bathroom first, like this, it all came out. So that also has a practical application for those that are makbid on this. Yeah, which is not the majority. Fine. So the bottom line is we don't have an opinion now who holds that the Zav's Shitva Zera becomes tummy even by carrying it. What it says is that we're not toiler in it, meaning we said before that if you have a reason to be toiler, something that a Zav sees, so you're going to go with it, right? So you're going to go with it, but so maybe the reason why. So when he has when he has Shichva Zera, so it could be that he's wiped out. So that's why he saw Tumasav. So that's not enough of a reason to say it. We're not going to use excuses, which is what we said it in the Mishnah. Right? Once he's a Zav, we're not going to use excuses. Fine. So then Savar Papa Kamed the Rav Lameimer, Papa thought that why we're not going to make excuses, Aidi Chulsha Hu the Chazi. That we would have thought that the reason he's shvach, because when a man has intimacy, he's going to get shvach, and then because he's weak, then he's going to see zav, and that would be the excuse. That was what you would say, but since he saw twice, so Mamela we're going to be machmer. We're not going to say that. So that again, that's what he thought. Because he's weak from the Shichva Zera, maybe that's why he saw zav, which we'll say if it happens on a temporary basis, but once he saw Zav twice, we're not going to say that. So Amalei Rava said that can't be, because we learned in the Mishnah, Gershin is Gair Matam Miyad Ziva. If a Ger becomes a Ger, right, and then he saw, he became a Zav, right? So he was still saying that he's a Zav. We're not going to say, meaning even if it came after he had Shitva Zera, then he saw, and we could blame it, but we're not going to. Right? It's Tameh. So Amar Lei, so that Amar Lei is not really, also it shouldn't be there. He says, but there's no greater chayli than a ger. And a ger, going through the gerus process is a stressful experience. Right? So if a ger saw Tumah Zav, that we can say that the reason why he saw the Tumah Zav is from the stress of becoming a ger. Right? So meaning if you're saying that theoretically, if somebody has Shitva Zera and then he sees Tumah Zav, we're going to blame the Tumah Zav on the Shitva Zera because he's wiped out. Right? So then how could it be that a ger, we're going to say is Tameh Ziva? Why can't we blame that he's wiped out? So it can't be that the reason why what the Mishnah is coming to tell us is that when a guy sees Zav twice, and the third time we're not going to look for excuses because of Raglayim L'Davar, but otherwise we would look for excuses. So that can't be. Shivla Zera can't be an excuse. So Gemara goes back and says Ella, like we said, Ella is a different shot, which is going back to the original shot. Where's that? Where the Mishnah is talking about carrying the shichva zera of a zav, carrying it becomes tamei, and that's a machlokes tanaim. The Tanya shichva zera shel zav metama masa kol me'es le'es. The shichva zera of a zav, meaning the regular semen of a zav, is metama with carrying for 24 hours, right? Meaning if he saw zav, and then within 24 hours he saw shikva zera, then it's and they carry it, then that's going to become tummy. Rabbi Yossi says yoimai, just that day, not 24 hours, just that day. But my kamifli, what's the machlokes? But the Shmuel, they're having machlokes in Shmuel. The Shmuel Rami. Shmuel had a stira ksiv ki b'cha ish asher lo yatar mikrei laila. If a person has a mikrei laila, then he's tar, is any asher lo yatar, he's not tar, and he has something that happened that night. And it says when it comes time to the evening, he washes in water. So the one that says that's for Eis Leis, Daik mi lifnois Erev. He's being medayik, and it says when it becomes evening. So they have a full day. Idach Daik mikrei loyli says it's only a night, meaning only that day, meaning only within that day. So mandam lifnois Erev aksim mikrei laila. The one that says that it's lifnois Erev, it says mikrei laila. So what is he going to do with that? Amarlei archa the carry lemaisi v'laila. As we know, tumas carry usually will happen at night from a nocturnal emission or something like that. So mamela, that's what the pasuk says mikrei laila for. It doesn't. You can't darshan out mikrei laila for anything else. The other mandomer wants to darshan out mikrei laila. That just means that day, and we're saying no, you can't say that. Mikrei laila just means for that particular night, because that's when most emissions happen. That will happen at night. Okay, we'll stop here. I hope this was semi-understandable, all this Tumah and Tara. But now we're done with the Tumah and Tara, at least till the site of Tumah and Tara. Yeah.
So Yaakov,
yeah.
So we mentioned before about the dirt and moving three fingers with the dirt, and they use the lashon as lashon besula. That's also used in English in excavating to dig down to virgin earth, is to get to undisturbed ground, so to speak. It's interesting. They got it from here. How they get it from here, I don't know how they did that, but it's still called that.
Right. I thought you say 3 fingers of bourbon for a baron.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing here is that we said it's something to think about. What a ger goes through, that it's like the worst type of the most difficult thing to do. That he's coming out from being a goy and becoming a yid. That there's like it's just a that the Gemara looks at that as such a tremendous thing.
Right? No.
What are you saying?
He said, "Ain't chayla golden because you got the kids over there. When you're driving with the kids and parking in the driveways."
I don't know. The phone just picked it up, so before it was in my ear.
He said, "Ain't chayla godla bezev." A goy was megayer. When he's a ger's megayer, they ain't chayla godla bezev. That this is the Gemara is looking at this as such a stringent thing that it upsets a person's mahus. It's what to think about, most of the time I don't have to deal with Gary ever, but
you're right. It's a serious thing that the stress can cause these things. Right.
I had a guy came to me in Hawaii. I was by the Chabadniks over there. A guy came and he tells me he's coming from where he was, like 20 miles away, 25 miles away. I see you're wearing tzitzis. He says, yeah, he wants to be Megayer, blah, blah, blah. I says, so He said he took the bus here so because he has to be Michal Shabbos. So I said, I told him Sushtel by Avraham Avinu, it says you're wearing tzitzis, so you are already Michal Shabbos. So why do you take the bus? You might as well walk. But he didn't like that. 25 miles home. It's the last time I saw him. I give up on this Yiddish guy. I don't know. Whatever. I can see. I didn't help him out. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I have to think about this, but it is. All the Gerim that I know. That's some of them had much harder times. I don't know. So yeah.
Okay, surprise Taisvis doesn't mention Ein Chayil Gadol Mizeh. He just had a bris milah too, in most cases.
Well, it says no. Yeah. So, but he's not toivel until he's merapa. He says there's toivel. He's moil, it's misrapa, and then he's toivel. So, but the ikka geris is on the Kabbalah all mitzvahs. So. That's the Iker Gavris is on old mitzvahs. So
now, if a ger just needs a tavas dam, I'm pretty sure they do that and go almost immediately into the mikvah.
okay, so that's not calling big. One drip of blood is not something you have to be misrapa over. But if it's
yeah.
I mean, this whole concept is so foreign to us. It's can you imagine you had all this Tum and Tara Bisman there? What it would be like?
There'd be so many apps for that.
That's true, but I'm saying you spend half your day in the mikvah.
They do that anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody would just come up with some sort of like mikvah, suit that you jump into. Carry it in the car, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna see parrots.
Yesterday's Daf Yomi Nazir was there in the mikveh with the sherets on top of it. So it's all happening.
That's why I don't go to the mikveh.
There you go. There you go.
Probably came from the mace that's under the water.
Yeah, exactly. Who needs Talmud Sherets beyond?
What do you mean? It was the mace had a sherets biyada.
Avi, you want to hear why you're going? I'll be mechazik you not to go to the mikvah. I was once speaking to a Rav from Bnei Brak, and he says to me, you want to do chesed? Do a chesed that nobody knows about. He says, on your way out of the mikvah, when you see all the floating hairs, take them out with you.
Wow. That reminds me of what they say about Uman.
Or just brush your teeth before you get home, because when you smile, you have it in your teeth.
Yeah, that's the original Uman mikvah. You went in with clean shaven and you came out with beard.
100% pure nastiness. You know what I mean? You get home and there's like red hair and brown hair, and you're like, what?
All right, stop.
I went into the mikvah when Bayport place.